This episode of Grow Getters is brought to you by the Grow Getters Growth Hacks newsletter. Subscribe at growgetters.io for your fortnightly fix of hands-on hacks for a kick-ass career.
Welcome to Grow Getters, the Future Skills podcast. Whether you're looking to build a future-proofed career in your industry or create a thriving, multi-passionate, multi-income stream lifestyle on your own terms, then you are a Grow Getter and you are in the right place.
In our snack-sized weekly episodes, we'll deliver you a super actionable future skill or trend in under 10 minutes. We want to make sure you keep up to speed with all the hottest new working methods and models, tools, growth hacks and trends in business and tech to help you stay ahead of the game.
Plus, in our monthly masterclass episodes, we bring you world-class experts in their fields who go deep on an in-demand skill or topic area and give you the actions, tips and advice to help you grow.
I'm Tiffany Hart, a tech startup founder, entrepreneur and specialist in digital transformation and innovation.
And I'm Tanya Garma, a digital business strategist, design thinker and brand and content director.
So if you're ready to future-proof your career or business to stay relevant, in your element and be excellent, then subscribe to the Grow Getters podcast for your weekly fix of future skills.
Hey, book lovers, you're listening to a Grow Getters Book Club episode, and it might sound a little bit different today as we are running this as a live event with some extra special guests today. So it's very exciting. So together with some amazing guests we have today, we are going to unpack, dissect, and discuss some of the hottest nonfiction releases. And today we're focusing on one, but this is what we do quite often on the podcast. We have our book club episodes semi-regularly, and we always choose books that have the potential to positively impact your careers and your lives. That's our focus with the Grow Getters Book Club. So today we are discussing Designing Your Life, How to Build a Well-Lived, Joyful Life by the godfathers of design thinking, Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. So Designing Your Life is a super practical step-by-step guidebook that uses design principles to help you build the future of your dreams. The book invites us to approach our own life design challenges with the same kind of curiosity and creativity that inventors and designers have used to create so many product innovations like the light bulb, for example, even the iPhone and even the internet. It's that same kind of curiosity that we're going to be tapping into here. By reframing challenges, shifting established mindsets, and foraying into the wonderful world of prototyping, Designing Your Life is the book for anyone wanting to shape a career and lifestyle of their dreams and make it a reality. But before we get started in our discussion, we have two very special guests joining us today. We have other audience members as well with an open Q&A at the end, but we want to introduce our two guests that will be joining in the main discussion. Our first guest is Belinda Wall. She is the founding director of the Australian-based marketing and brand consultancy Brand Amplified, and she also sits on the advisory board of MaxMe, an online learning platform. She has developed a career in marketing and brand strategy for over 15 years, working for organizations including 2XU and PwC before founding Brand Amplified in 2015. Brand Amplified is a business that is, like it says on the website, literally obsessed with all things brand. So with a passion for storytelling, creative collaborations, and success, Brand Amplified loves nothing more than working with clients on their journey from business to brand. Welcome, Belinda, to today's Grow Getters Book Club episode.
Thank you so much, Tiff and Tanya. I'm so happy to be here. Really, really exciting, especially talking about this amazing book today. So thank you for having me.
No problem at all. We love having you here. Now to our second guest. She is a friend of Grow Getters for a long time. She's a seasoned book clubber and an all-round superstar We love her very much. Kelty Maguire. Kelty is a clarity coach. She's a speaker and podcaster herself, and her purpose is to help small business owners and professionals cut through the overwhelm, help them getting unstuck, get clear on their desires, and take aligned action. So welcome back to the book club, Kelty.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here again. Yeah, one of my favorite books today. So look forward to getting into it with you all.
And both of our guests, they're from Melbourne to Munich. So we've really got a very international group of women here today. So it's super, super exciting. And of course, as always, you'll be hearing from me, Tanya Gama. I'll be hosting today. And we have GrowGetter's own startup legend and digital accelerator, Tiffany Hart, joining in the discussion. So ladies, let's get started and let's get into the brilliant book, Designing Your Life. So Kelty, I'm going to start with you today because I know that you absolutely love this book. You actually refer to it regularly with your clients to help them gain clarity. And the interesting part, I read in the introduction that the authors point out that only 27% of college graduates have a career or end up in a career related to their majors. So what did you think when you read that statistic? And are you, in fact, one of that 27%?
To be honest, I'm kind of surprised that it's as high as that. I know probably the statistic is meant to shock by its, low number, but it didn't really surprise me at all. For the fact that, first of all, I think most of us, when we choose, should we go to college or university, when we choose our major, we really are just sort of stabbing in the dark as far as what it is we think we want to do. Coming out of high school, a lot of times we aren't super informed in terms of what our desires for life really are, what our different options are. I think in high school, a lot of the career options that are presented to us are very narrow and perhaps very traditional. So, it didn't surprise me. And frankly, the fact that people don't end up working in those majors is probably going to be for a multitude of reasons. We've got the practical. I know it's very tough to get a job today in today's economy. A lot of our areas of study are very broad. And I think probably one of the biggest reasons is just the fact that we aren't necessarily that in touch with ourselves when we're going through school. And then, things change. We get out into the work world and, we end up going a different direction. Myself personally, I would say I am and I'm not in that 27%. So I studied psychology for my undergraduate. And of course, I am a coach now. So in some sense, it's sort of been this full circle moment, having gone through various different career paths. Of course, there's a good connection between psychology and coaching. That said, I wouldn't say, it's a direct correlation. There was a lot that happened between studying psychology and then finding myself where I am today.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. In Australia, we usually graduate between the ages of 20 and 23 from university. So it's incredibly young and so much can happen in your life till then. So I have to agree with you. I also wasn't super surprised by that statistic. It is a US-based statistic, but I think you can probably generally apply that to most Western nations. Absolutely. And another interesting thing about Designing Your Life is it keeps introducing readers to this concept of reframing. So that's essentially pivoting your perspective to address a perceived problem that you have in your mind and reframing that problem. So to give an example, a dysfunctional belief could be, I should already know where I'm going in my life and in my career. But the authors reframe that to, you can't know where you're going until you know where you are. So it's just these gentle reframes that they offer throughout the book to kind of help dispel very common mindsets and common myths that we all, often have inside of our heads. And usually they're blockers, usually they're very negative ones. So I want to throw it over to Belinda. Have you had any experiences personally with reframing, either in your career or in your personal life? Has there been moments where you've had to reframe things for yourself to start, forging a path ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many. To some degree, I feel like my 30s have been an entire reframe of everything that I thought I knew to be true in my 20s. Don't know if anyone else can relate to that. But I guess there's a couple of specific examples professionally. When I first shifted, I guess pre-consulting, I did a lot of in-house work for brands. But when I shifted into consulting for the first time, I really had to reframe my thinking around handing over a piece of work as a finished, perfect piece of work. And this idea that if I received feedback from that piece of work that was quite extensive or anything, I guess, less or different to great, done, perfect, then somehow my work was failed, or I was a failure, or I had not delivered value to the client, or I had not achieved a good outcome, which, I think that was something that I absolutely carried in my head for years, the first few years of consulting. And, through learning and through feedback and through experience and hindsight, I really came to reframe that, to realize that. And in the book, it's framed up regularly as not wicked, but radical collaboration, and that by nature of collaborating with fellow humans, you are ultimately going to achieve a better result. And, again, in hindsight, who was I to think that ultimately one brain or one side of the coin as a consultant or a consultancy would get the best outcome. Now I really frame that up as, okay, well, I'm going to get the work to a point which is maybe in my mind an 80% Brene Brown term shitty first draft, and then I will hand that over, but really present that or frame that up to the client as that, to say, here's where we are, this is where we collaborate to close out and achieve a final result together. So really reframing that to make that actually part of the working process, as opposed to handing over a done piece of work, or a piece of work that I used to think was or should be done. I guess on a similar level in my personal life, I was thinking about this as well. And one of the biggest reframings that I've had a few years ago was about 3 or 4 years ago, and I was going through a period of chronic illness through some autoimmune disease, and I was sort of bouncing around from specialist to specialist through this particular period, and 6 to 12 months or so, and really that wore me down to a point, because I felt again as though I was failing or weak for needing all these different specialists. And, it seemed ridiculous in my mind that I couldn't function properly. But it was through some work with a specialist who really planted the seed and said, look, us humans were actually designed to do things together. It's all about collaborating in order to achieve great outcomes and progress. And, I suppose achieving good health, it's crazy to think that, you can do that necessarily on your own. And why not think of it and reframe it in my mind as an absolute privilege and a luxury to be living in a country or an environment where I could access the best healthcare, and I could collaborate with these leading specialists in order to progress through that chapter of my life and get really well, which I was able to do. So in a way, very two kind of, different areas of work. But I think when you are a consultant as well, and you guys know this running your own business, and Kelty as well, professional and personal are absolutely one in the same in a lot of ways. So you are the asset. So it was really interesting to sort of think about how those reframings professionally and personally were actually not that different, But yeah, reframing, absolutely. I feel like I reframe things daily. And I think when you are in that habit of reframing and choosing a positive mindset, or how could I do this differently, or how could I grow through this challenge, or looking at a problem as a wicked problem, as again, the book frames it up as, you get better at that and you become a lot quicker at reframing.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your story, Belinda. That's amazing. And it just goes to show the power of collaboration, and that it is so true. We are designed, we are social beings. We are designed to be together. And I think that is what has made the last 18 months so difficult for so many people. But I'm just thankful that we can all be here together, albeit virtually. But thank you so much for sharing. That was very generous of you.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to throw the next question out to all of the ladies. Did you all complete the exercises in the book? And if you did, was there one exercise in particular that resonated the most with you? So maybe I'll start with Tiffany first.
Sure. I didn't do all the exercises, but I did pick and choose. I kind of chose my own adventure through the book. And one activity that really resonated with me, because I'm an avid list maker, I make a list every single day, and sometimes in the afternoon after I've completed the list in the evening, I'd make a new list for the next day and revise it in the morning. So that's how I function. So yeah, the wayfinding chapter 3 was really cool for me, because I think that this exercise called the Good Time Journal exercise really kind of got me to look at everything that I'm doing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and over the month. They say 3 weeks, but I kind of did it over a month, to stop and reflect on the different parts of the day and what I did to make up my day, and to really look at where were the states of flow. Did I have flow? Because that's one of the biggest things that I chase in myself. I want to get into a state of flow. I want to get into a state where I'm enjoying things, and joy is one of my most important words in my life. And so, doing things, becoming aware of these things. So I really, really like that activity. I actually did this just to kind of mark out, because there have been times in my life where I've kind of jumbled it all together and I've just kind of thrown it into one pot. And when they say zoom out, you can't, because everything's mashed together. But when you zoom in, and you actually can see the different things and activities you're doing in the day, and where is your energy, like where's your energy flow? And, and how much enjoyment are you getting from this? There are two kind of really important vehicles to check in, because sometimes they are the same and sometimes they're not. Like, for example, if you're working behind a computer, or you're working with your brain a lot, you're using a lot of energy, and that's why you feel exhausted at the end of the day if you've used computing power from your brain. So I think this was a really, really cool activity. And I did this, and it helped me reflect on the things that I enjoy doing, the things that I am good at, but it takes a lot of energy from me. And to understand, okay, if I have to do those things like accounting, or if I have to do the things of like book work, I mean, that's not my jam. So if I have to do those things, I'm good at those things, but it takes energy from me. It just takes most of my surplus to do so. So I have to have a rest point in order to do such a job. So yeah, that was a really cool activity. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Tan. Who's next?
How about you, Kelty?
My initial answer is like hard no. I didn't do the exercises, which isn't entirely true. I'm somebody I really quickly sort of like integrate and I guess embody different ideas and concepts. So certainly all of the activities gave me a lot of pause, and I thought about them throughout the course of my week, my month, and they're things I've continued to carry with me. But I'm often with these kind of workbook style books, I think, I'll read it, I'll go back and do it at the end. And that did not happen. However, I had the great fortune of attending a Designing Your Life intensive in San Francisco 2 years ago. When Chris and I, my husband and I, were back in Canada, we both decided to fly down to San Francisco and do this day-long Designing Your Life intensive. And it was incredible. The team at Designing Your Life, it was not with Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, but it was with two of their partners in the business, two fantastic women who are just, it was very, very inspiring to learn from them. And then a multitude of different professionals and business owners. We went through some of the exercises during this intensive, and two that really, really impacted and stood out to me were, first of all, we had to prepare our work view and life view sort of statements, and we shared those with the group. And so, for Chris and I both, taking some time before this intensive to sit down, in quiet and really think about, why do we work? What is this all for? What's the point? Okay, yeah, we want to make money, but how much of a role does that play? How much money? What purpose does work really serve in our lives? And then, what's life all about? What is the purpose of life? Of course, these are big, heavy questions, right? And there's no right or wrong answer. And I think for me, sort of forcing myself to take the time to go through these questions, as well as discussing them with this really interesting, dynamic group of individuals, that was really, really powerful. And I know those questions are ones that I've really integrated into my own coaching business to ask my clients, if you start a business, like what for? What's the purpose of all this? Like, why are we doing this? Because I think it's really easy to sort of optimize, on, let's say, the career front, the business front, the relationship front, but to actually stop and say, what's the point of this all in the first place, can be super powerful. And then the second exercise, which was very cool and a lot of fun, was the Odyssey planning. And so for everyone listening, effectively, this is when you come up with 3 different plans for the next, I think it's like 1, 3, 5 years of your life, looking at different areas. And just be super playful. Like, it's really about having this wild vision and not saying, okay, based on where I am now, these are kind of the practical ways in which I could go. And so that was especially fun because it was interesting for me to see what Chris had come up with versus myself. You know, we had things like, oh, we're going to like start this rescue with dogs because we both are big dog lovers, and we're going to have a craft beer truck, and we're going to sell tacos, and, you know, we're going to be leading hiking tours through Europe. And it was so fun and playful. And the interesting thing is a lot of those elements aren't that far off from where we're going in our lives now, and the kind of, you know, location independence we want to have, and the kind of connection and the joy we want to cultivate, like Tiffany said. So that was really, you know, I would encourage everyone, do it on your own. But if you're in a relationship with someone, or, you know, have a best friend or family member, it can be really cool to see where they're at and what that sort of wild vision that they have for themselves is.
Oh, I love that. Oh, Kelty, you'll have to share with us the secret of life, by the way, that you mentioned before. Just joking. What is
no
life?
Pressure.
Belinda, what is life? No, just kidding. Belinda, what exercise resonated with you?
Just a small handball there, no problem. One of the foremost exercises that is thrown at us in the book, or offered to us in the book, is called the Love, Play, Work, Health dashboard. And it's a really, really simple exercise. And full disclosure, Kelty, you're not the only bad egg in the book club, because I did actually do this on audiobook myself as well. So like you, I didn't sit down studiously and go through every exercise. However, I loved it on my morning walks, and I really took the time to process a lot of the themes. So this one in particular really resonated with me. So essentially it asks you to square up, you know, literally on a piece of paper or what have you, and prepare a four-quartered gauge or a dashboard. And you essentially rate your life right now across those four metrics, being love, play, work, and health. And it's as simple as looking at how full or empty your tank is, and in those particular areas. And at that particular point, a couple of months ago, I was feeling this strange sense of just feeling a bit off in my life, and I couldn't quite work out what it was. I knew that like my work was great at the moment. I had some amazingly rewarding clients that I was loving working with. Love was high. I was, you know, giving love, and I was receiving a lot of love and family and so forth. And health was really, really good. But when play came up, I realized that is exactly what I was really low on at that point. And it was, I think, because I become so immersed in work, we can often just get out of kilter on our dash. But I think a lot of people actually, and this has become quite common in cities where we've had lockdowns, but in Melbourne, where I'm based at the moment, and we're just at the start of another 7-day snap lockdown, but last year we had a long period of lockdown, and, you know, a lot of us are feeling this phenomenon of being kind of socially unfit now. And you know, we've become deconnected or disconnected from our friendship circles, literally just because they live over the other side of town, or, you know, you can become caught in a cadence where you just kind of let the social side drop off. So that exercise literally immediately helped me to identify that was the thing that was really quite empty, and I needed to proactively go, oh God, I've got to reconnect. So I turned that around and I filled up that gauge pretty damn quickly, but really simple but quite powerful exercise to do, and really helps you, I think, in those moments where sometimes you can just be feeling a bit off, or, you know, maybe depleted, or just out of sync and not really sure why. So that was great. I really enjoyed that one.
Oh, thank you for sharing. And I'm glad you filled your social life bucket. That's very, very important.
Lots of play here. I'm trying.
In the book, the authors state that designing something changes the future that is possible, which is a pretty bold statement. I'll read it again. Designing something changes the future that is possible. So, Tiff, I wanted to ask you, how do you interpret this statement?
Well, I completely believe in that statement, actually. And without design or conscious thought, there is absolutely no possibility that the future can or will change. And of course, there are other forces at play. But to design something is to put effort into something, and it's to kind of put energy into something, or the life that you want to live and the future you want to have. And it's that action, it's that doing, it's that putting the work in that makes actually that future so much more possible than it actually would be before. Without designing, without contemplating, without, putting ideas out there, or actually kind of, manipulating what you want to create or putting energy into, then I really do believe that designing something changes the future that is possible. Because it's easy to sit back and go, well, what will be, will be. But, if you don't actually put out what you want to be, then what will be, just life happening, but actually without the design of the life that you want to live in. So yeah, I like that statement, and I fully believe that you really need to put design and energy into the future you want to create.
Amen. Couldn't agree more. Kelty, I'm going to throw the next one over to you. There's a feeling of flow that they describe in the book and that we've already touched on today. It's that feeling when you are so utterly absorbed in an activity that you just feel like you lose a sense of time. Have you ever felt that feeling of flow in a professional context? I think we've all felt it in maybe, nice moments, holidays, maybe when you have hiked up that massive mountain. But what about in a professional context?
Yeah, no, I certainly have experienced it. And I think for me, first of all, doing public speaking has been a big one. Deciding or saying, okay, I'm going to give an hour-long talk can feel like a massive chunk of time to hold the stage. But really just getting in that flow of sharing ideas and, interacting with the audience and feeding off that energy. It's amazing how quickly that time can go. And it's actually kind of scary because it's almost like my brain and I speak before I even necessarily process consciously what I'm going to be saying. And yet somehow it comes out as sounding really eloquent, making a lot of sense. And so, in that sense, it's interesting. It's almost like you have to sort of hold the faith that things will just come together. And it's sort of this interesting, I can't really describe it, but it's a strange state to be in. And I do think it requires a lot of faith. If anybody has done speaking, maybe they can relate to that, but it's sort of just saying, I've internalized these messages. Yeah, of course, you can have your prep, you can have your slide deck, whatever, but to just know it's going to come and you're just going to be in that flow. But it's scary, right? Because if you try and consciously process, okay, exactly how this is going to go, it's almost like that's where you really get stuck. Certainly, I've also had that experience when coaching people, doing my group sessions, doing my one-on-one, and just really, I think with that, you talk about this sort of losing that sense of time. It's being hyper present. It's being in right in that moment, really absorbed in what someone is saying, really, sometimes being in your own head in a positive way of just kind of processing everything that's going on. So I'm fortunate that I have experienced that quite frequently and hope to continue doing so into the future.
Oh, you're so lucky to be able to experience flow in your career of choice. That is, I guess, the holy grail for all of us. I
designed it that way, right? Truly embodying these ideas from the book has allowed me to say, what brings me joy? What puts me in that flow state? When do I feel really present? And to be able to build my way forward, as they talk about.
You sure did. That's great. It's so inspiring. Thank you. The authors, Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, in the book, they write that there is no one idea for your life. There are many lives you could live happily and productively. So Tiff, wanted to ask you, what did you make of this sentiment? Did it resonate with you?
It's 100% aligned with my value system. And I love in the book that they write, they say, you are legion. Each of us is many, and the life you are living is one of many lives you will live. And of course, in the book, they're not talking about reincarnation, or they're not talking about anything religious, but what they're saying is that there are so many different stages in a person's life. And if that only one choice you made in high school, that one chemistry class that you had to take is going to define everything you're doing until you're 80, 90. I mean, this is such a depressing life that you can live, right? So the choices I made in high school definitely did not shape what I'm doing right now. I mean, I was following my passion, actually, to be honest, when I was at that time of my life. But I think what this statement is kind of saying is it's a paint by numbers approach to life, but in reality, life's a bit more abstract. Life's a bit more like, a bit of an abstract painting, and you put a bit there and you put a bit there and a splash of color there and some odd shape there. And, I think there are so many multiple interpretations and multiple possibilities in our life. And, when we embrace our multiple personalities and our multiple passions and our multiple interests, we can see that there's not just one linear path. Because if we were just on one linear path, I know some people that are just on one linear path. Okay, there is a possibility to do this. But the majority of us will have different directions and different paths and different opportunities and things that they didn't foresee. And that's kind of that wayfinding, kind of going with the flow, and possibilities pop up and then takes you in a different direction. And I think that this helps to kind of create so much richness when you embrace that. And it also kind of helps you design the life you want to live. So this statement really resonates with me a lot. And it's what I'm living now. And I've chosen to live and be in that state and be in that headspace consciously. And I think, as Kelty mentioned, those 3 versions of your life 1, life 2, life 3, that Kelty mentioned just before, I think it's really good to look at, what's that life 1 that you currently are living, life 2, the things that you would do if everything suddenly were gone. Which, of course, people have had that experience and then reevaluated, oh shit, I hate this life. I want it to completely change this and do something that I really want to do with the precious time that I have. And then life 3, the things that you would do if the life that you live was not connected to a money or an object or image. So I love that thought. It really resonates with me, and it is the value system I'm trying to live now and into the future.
And those 3 scenarios, or those 3 future states, what the book terms Odyssey planning. Kelty, have you used that a lot with your clients? And if you have there been any just aha moments, discoveries and insights that you've witnessed, that you've seen people completely, shift their lifestyles, shift their mindsets or their careers through Odyssey planning?
I'd say my answer is yes and no. I mean, certainly this concept of Odyssey planning is one that I discuss with a lot of my clients. And some of those clients do, concretely go through this exercise. And of course, that's very revealing for them to just kind of see how many different possibilities there can be, and that there's not one right way, one right path. I think a lot of people have this misconception that we have to discover the right way. And it's really about building what's right for us at a given time. And that can, of course, shift and change. That said, I think a lot of the ideas that sort of underpin the Odyssey planning are ones that I use very frequently, and really looking at, what would I do if money was no object? What would I do if other people's opinions didn't matter? And of course, money can be an object. And of course, other people's opinions and other people do play into our lives. We do not live in a bubble. But I think to sort of suspend your disbelief for a moment and just push all of these other outside forces aside can really help us get in touch with what it is we want. And I know that's certainly brought about a lot of insight for my clients to just say like, wow, I never really realized that I was making these choices because that's what my mother had said I should do. I didn't really realize how much my partner was exerting influence on how I'm building this business. So certainly those sort of aha moments that people have through asking these questions and doing either the entire or partial exercise has led to a lot of changes in their lives, and them deciding to go down a new path, or being able to make changes so that their business, their life, their career is more in accordance with what they truly want, not just what they think they want or what they've been told they should want.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned before, Kelty, the exercise is so fun because it is really playful. It's visionary, it's blue sky, and you remove those internal blockers when you do think about these scenarios and think the what ifs. And it does make it a bit more tangible for people to see that it could be a reality. So I'm also a massive fan of the Odyssey planning. I think it is very, very powerful. Now, before we throw questions to all of our audience that are here today with us live, one final question for Belinda. What, in your opinion, was the biggest revelation from this book for you personally?
Oh, it's so hard to pick just one, Tanya, but because there really are so many pots of gold to be found in this book. And I think the conversation that we've had here today absolutely points to that. I'll pick two. I think, firstly, there's a great chapter in the mix around making good decisions. And I think I was reading actually a in terms of a couple of other reviews about the book. And I think that's actually one of the most commonly loved parts of the book is the decision-making process. For me personally, that really resonated because I'm someone that often has, I guess, suffers from that cognitive overload, and there's so many options, or you're crippled by that thought that maybe I'm not going to make the right decision, or a lot of people get the whole FOMO idea of, I don't want to say no to that, or I don't want to miss out on that. But there's a couple of really core principles, that they work into the mix, which is around something as basic as, 5 to 7 options. Science has proven that that is probably the most amount that we should be choosing from in order to make a good decision. But also, I guess, the basic principle that there is no one best or right decision. It's more about understanding what is the right one for us at this moment in time, and what is going to line up with our goals or I guess the life that we want to design for ourselves, and what's going to bring the most sort of happiness and so forth. So some basic principles that they get, obviously, if you've got a really long list of options, they suggest literally just being bold, put a line through, start putting a line through 5 or 6 of them. And that's the best way of determining whether that is the right thing or not, because as soon as you put a line through one that you hold a fondness to, you will know straight away. So literally being quite ruthless, but essentially you need to collect all the options. You need to move and review those options. You need to choose, and then you need to move on. And moving on is one of the core parts of that decision-making process. And that is, that feeds into this whole, bias for action and just doing stuff that they talk about a lot in the book as well. So I think we can often just stew over a decision a lot and go, oh, was that the right one? I don't know. But, moving on and just, continuing to iterate and move on and realize that it's a journey that, we're never going to fail from choosing one particular decision or making one particular decision. The other one, I suppose, is this idea of immunity from failure, which I really love. And I think that really encapsulates a lot of the essence of this book, which is all around mindset and framing and reframing. And if we really get our head around this idea that there is no wrong decision, that there is no just one life, and there is no one version of what's right for you, it's really, really, I guess, a powerful mindset to have, is that when you consider that everything that comes our way is really a learning opportunity, that everything is a wicked problem to be solved, to work through, to iterate or develop, it's an infinite journey, and one that is really can be considered quite a privilege. It's no different from developing muscle in the gym or cardiovascular fitness. In order to kind of grow and strengthen, we're always going to have those moments of friction or growth moments, I suppose, where it's going to hurt and it's going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to maybe feel a bit wrong, but it's those kind of moments that really build us and help to inform a better next chapter or a better next move or a better next thing. So I love that idea that they were saying, really encouraging you to remember that you can be immune from this idea of failure when you really just do have the right framing and the mindset, which I absolutely loved.
Oh, thank you so, so much. Thank you to Kelty and Belinda and Tiffany for all of your amazing insights and experiences. Thank you so much for sharing. I would love to now bring our beautiful audience into the mix here. If anyone has any questions or comments about the book, about the concepts, or even personally for Kelty or Belinda or Tiffany or myself, please raise your hand, join in, no pressure. If not, we can wrap things up. But please go on ahead.
Well, Tanya, what about you with the book? Because you've heard from us and we'd love to hear from you. So was there a revelation for you in the book from crafting the questions and going through the book? Was there something that really resonated with you?
Well, I'm a massive proponent already of design thinking. I had the privilege of doing a 3-day intensive at the HPI Institute in Berlin, which is basically the D School, the sister school of Stanford University's D School, which is basically where design thinking was founded. So I love design thinking. I use it in my work at the consultancy I work for. I use it with Grow Getters, with Tiffany, with and with the podcast, in shaping how the podcast has been evolving. And I think, but for me, the concept that the book revealed, which I didn't know about before, I'd have to agree with Kelty, which is the Odyssey planning. This was the exercise or the concept that spoke most to me personally. I'm a very visionary person. I'm a very future-oriented individual. And I think that having those 3 scenarios where you remove certain barriers to your thinking, I think that is so, so helpful. And I haven't completed those 3 exercises in detail, but I really do plan to in the next couple of weeks. I've definitely planned a general 5-year plan scenario in my mind, but I think when you also write it down, even if you record yourself saying each of those visions and you have a voice memo of that recording, I think it makes it all the more powerful and tangible, even if you make a vision board as sorry, I'm a vision board kind of gal. But when you can make that tangible as a further step, not just having it conceptually in your mind, I think then it can be really powerful. But I love the concept of Odyssey planning and seeing where life can take you. And I also loved Kelty's point that you raised before about seeing how aligned it is with your loved ones. It's actually a pretty good litmus test to see if everyone is on the right track and all values are aligning. So I'm definitely keen to do that. But I think that was for me the biggest revelation of the book. And funnily enough, Kelty also mentioned the course that the intensive she did. As I was also perusing the Designing Your Life website to seeing what they offered, I noticed that they have a new book being released called Designing Your Working Life. And so this will be my next purchase for sure. And potentially it's a book club episode for the future. But I mean, I love design thinking, and to be able to apply it into your personal life and your career life, I think it's an amazing thing for sure. That's my 2 cents. I think
one of the greatest gifts of the book is it's surely got to be this idea of agency and being in the driver's seat. That is such a gift. And I think that's probably what is that incredible light bulb moment when you're encouraged to do the Odyssey planning, is that, oh, wow, I can write my life. Like I can do this. And for a lot of people, we get so caught on the hamster wheel of common life narratives. If we look around us, a lot of us, are living a very similar existence. And, if we think about when was the last time you came across someone that you thought, oh, that was different, that's unexpected, that's different, or it's very uncommon. And to be truly living a life that you designed, it seems ridiculous, but it is actually, it's uncommon. But it's ripe for the picking. And I think more than anything, this book really not only, I guess, encourages you and inspires you that is possible, but it gives you the tools to be able to make a start on that and to really change what your future, can hold, which is really, really exciting.
And like you mentioned before, Belle, we are in such a privileged position, having choices, being women in the places that we live and having a multitude of choices and options at our disposal. I think it's always good to check in and realize, wow, yeah, we are super, super lucky. I think we're all very grateful and but I think the book definitely gives you that agency to shape the life you want to live and your dream life and make it come to life and come to fruition. So, Grow Getters, I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much again to Belinda and Kelty and Tiffany and all the ladies that have joined us today in discussing Designing Your Life. We have had a ton of fun and we really do love this book so much and can't wait to read the professional version, Designing Your Work Life. And we would love to hear your experiences, all of our listeners. If you love designing your life as much as we do, honestly, please slide on into our DMs. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Or tell us what book you'd recommend for our next book club. We're always open to suggestions. We want to know what the hottest new books are. We want to know all of your top picks. So please do let us know. And ladies, as always, if you want to absolutely crush it in your career and future-proof yourself with the most up-to-date and in-demand skills, please do subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have a spare 30 seconds, we'd love if you can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars would be amazing, as we are an independent poddy and we would really appreciate it. And of course, hit that follow button on Spotify too. And also don't forget to join us on Instagram at growgetters.io. We would love if you can share a pic of you listening to our podcast on your Insta stories, tag us, tag a friend, so even more brilliant Grow Getters can find us. So chat to you in our next book club episode and let's get growing.